This class will deal with the selection process. Now, the selection process involves identifying particular employees with jobs which will enhance their skills and capabilities. It's a question of marrying up the skills and capabilities, skills and talents of the individuals with the requirements of the job. And a good selection process will get a good fit between the two. It's crucial that organisations select the right candidates, as this will save time and money. The quest for the right workers is expensive. They have to be found, selected and recruited and trained and inducted into the business. So the whole process is quite expensive. So it's important to find the right ones, find them efficiently and try to retain them when they have been found. Employees are the backbone of any organisation. If an organisation has a talented pool of employees, it will reflect a successful business image. So it's the employees who form the organisation. Without the employees, it's just a set of buildings with some machines or computers or whatever, some furniture. It's the employees who do the job. It's the management who organise and set out the tasks, and the employees who carry out the tasks. And so it's important that the right employees are in place. Now, some of the processes that are undertaken to recruit the employees are very practical, and I want to run through some of these. We'll start with shortlisting. Shortlisting occurs once candidates have responded to a job vacancy. Methods of response can be either a curriculum vitae, a CV, or an application form. So the candidates for the job either use their own CV or they use an application form which the company sends to them. If sufficient numbers apply, then it may be necessary to shortlist. If there's only one vacancy and 20 people apply, it might be necessary to shortlist the people. So looking at candidate responses, the Human Resource Department, or the person responsible for recruitment, depends on the size of the business, will then decide which employees are suitable for the job role. So looking at the applications and looking at the job that was advertised and needs to be filled, the person responsible for this goes through the applications and selects a smaller number. These are the ones who are particularly suited to do this particular task. Once suitable candidates are selected, they are then grouped into a shortlist and contacted for an interview. So the shortlisting process just cuts down on the numbers, finds the people who are most appropriate for the task that's advertised. So shortlisting is an important part of the recruitment process. It allows employers to select the right candidates for the job. So it looks at the complete set of responses and then throws out the subset of the responses which are most appropriate for that particular task or that particular job. The process is time consuming, but it allows employers to pick out the best candidates for further consideration. So it has to be done with care and attention. But once it's done, a much shorter list of candidates then result, and these can be dealt with in more detail. Employers have the right to reject an application if the candidate does not have the right qualifications or requirements for the job. Clearly, when the application is received, it will be scrutinized to see if the person is suitable in terms of qualifications, experience, or whatever was required when the job was posted. The job, when it's posted, let's say in the press, it should indicate what requirements it had, what experiences the applicants should have or what qualifications and so on. Now, shortlisting candidates, well, how to shortlist the candidates. Candidates must be compared against essential and desirable requirements stated in the job description and person specification. So there are two requirements really. There's the essential and the desirable. The essential is what the person must have to get onto the shortlist. Absolutely essential. And desirable are extras. So if the job states they must have 5 years experience doing a certain job, that's essential. They must have it, 5 years. But if they've got 7 years, the extra 2 years is highly desirable. And if they've also got some qualifications in the area, that's desirable. And this is the way in which people differentiate themselves in the labour market. This is what makes candidates more desirable. It's having the essentials, but having some extras as well, the desirables, what employers would like. Not essential, but what they would like, the extras. The candidates who don't have the essentials are rejected. The shortlisting panel must then decide which candidates are suitable. So having rejected the obvious applicants, the ones who are just trying but they don't have the essential requirements, the shortlisting panel, perhaps 2 or 3 people who know the requirements of the particular job, some managers may have a meeting and draw up a shortlist of the candidates to see who are suitable. The suitable candidates are then called for an interview and assessed further. The application process should not discriminate in any way. The candidates must be treated fairly. They must be treated on the basis of the requirement of the task, look at the essentials to complete the task that was advertised, the job that was advertised, look at the essentials and ensure that the shortlist have met the essentials. And then perhaps look at the desirable qualities, the ones that are the extras, the experiences or the qualifications that are extra to those required, and draw up the shortlist based on those. The selection criteria, well, in order to validate the selection process, it's necessary to produce a set of selection criteria which a candidate can be measured against. So it's important that there are standards of judgment, and in order to avoid discriminatory practices, an objective set of criteria should be drawn up, if possible. So this could include work experience, achievements in the past, qualifications. It can include many factors, but preferably work-related factors, factors that apply to this particular situation. The selection criteria is mainly presented in a person specification, detailing the characteristics of a suitable candidate. So as far as possible, if the selection criteria can be made public, if it can be sent to the applicants to ask them to self-select, do they want to be a part of this process? Do they meet the following requirements? The essential requirements and then the desirable requirements. Well, if they're on the shortlist, they will have met the essentials, but let them see what the full set of criteria are. There are 3 formats that may be used in dealing with the selection process. And the three formats are the Alec Rogers 7-point plan, John Munro Fraser's Fivefold framework, and Lewis's three aspects of the selection criteria. We'll just briefly look at these, starting with the Alec Rogers 7-point plan. It provides a basis for the construction of a person specification. So this is a good starting point for a person specification. Selection criteria is based on meeting essential and desirable criteria, as we've been discussing. Now, this list will apply to a wide variety of tasks and jobs. So some of the points, like physical build, for example, may appear. It depends on the nature of the job. If this is in construction, physical build might be important. If it's an agricultural worker, it may be important. So many areas it may be. It may not be important. So there's just simply a list of criteria, some of which are perhaps important, some are not, in the context of the job advertised. Achievements, for example. They may want to know what achievements the person has had. These could be academic achievements, sporting achievements, personal development achievements, intelligence. I'm not too sure how to measure intelligence, but intelligence may be on the list. It may relate to school achievements and qualifications, degrees, diplomas, that sort of thing. Special attributes, special capacities, what the person can do better than others. They may have particular talents. They may enjoy a good reputation as an athlete or as a musician. And that may be desirable to have a person in the business with a good profile in that area, because it promotes the business, it helps the business and the image of the business. So special attributes may be something. What are the interests and hobbies of the person? Again, it tells something about the person. And what's the disposition of the person? Are they friendly and open, or are they more shy and retiring and very quietly spoken? And what sort of person are they? Are they sort of sociable and extrovert, rather than more, as I said, retiring, inward-looking, introspective? What sort of disposition have they got? And what are their circumstances? What's their background? Are they married? Do they have family obligations? Do they live locally? Do they? What's their circumstances exactly? A lot of these issues may influence the decision process. For example, if the person lived far from the work, it may take time to get there, and it may mean that the person will not last long in the job. They may wish to find employment nearer to home. So these are the Alan Rogers 7-point plan, and they need to be customized. They need to be developed in the context of the particular job that's advertised. Now, John Munro Fraser's 5-point framework. Well, it's a much simpler approach. The framework focuses on the candidate's career and derives future potential. So it tries to focus on the candidate's career to date and look at the potential of the person looking into the future. Now, the fivefold framework, well, the impact that the person has on others, how the person is perceived by others, what's the first impressions, and how does the person present him or herself, the qualifications and experiences gained in the past, That's fairly self-explanatory. The innate abilities of the person. What can they just do that others find difficult? Are they athletic? Are they artistic? What are their innate abilities? What are they capable of? What's their motivation? Are they highly motivated people who want to advance themselves in their career? What do they want to achieve? Do they want to be recognized? And what's the emotional balance and willingness to adjust? How are they balanced, their work life versus their non-work life? They should be balanced. They should ideally be prepared to work hard, apply themselves in the context of the business and the requirements of the business. But equally, when they leave work, they should have hobbies and interests, and they should be able to balance their work lives. And a lot of people have several parts to their lives. They have home lives and family lives. They have social lives. They have their hobbies, and then they have their work life. And it's seen by many not to be healthy just to have one particular activity. Let's say a work life and nothing else. They should have other activities which gives them balance. Now, the Lewis one I mentioned implies that selection criteria is dependent on three factors. This is the last one we'll look at. First of all, organizational criteria. What the organization wants from a person, from a worker. So they will want responsibility, they will want reliability, they'll want application. So organizational criteria are important. There'll also be functional and departmental criteria. People must be able to perform the functions that's required of them, and they must be responsible to the department and ensure that the department is facilitated by their activities, that they are reliable members of the departmental team, supporting efforts of the department in advancing the department, and thereby, of course, advancing the organization. And there are, of course, the individual job criteria that apply to the individual, him or herself. What sort of job is it? What's the requirements of the job, and how well suited is the individual to achieve the requirements of the job that's been advertised? Now let's just look at these in a little more detail. Let's look at start with the organizational criteria. The organization produces certain attributes which they feel are important and should be displayed in their employees. So everyone who works for the company should have some sort of core identification with the business. Now these attributes provide measures against employee potential within the organization. These attributes are important because they enable the organization and the individuals to relate to each other. These are common or core identifications. The organization believes that these attributes will help the organization develop and meet its objectives. So the organization is looking to its employees to be ambassadors for the organization, to relate to the organization, to be supportive of the organization, and to create a positive image of the business. Now the functional and departmental criteria. Well, all organizations have different departments such as HR, finance, marketing, IT, and so on, production, so on. So organisations tend to have different departments, and these departments have their own requirements in order for the department to function successfully, as I said earlier. For example, appropriate interpersonal and communication skills in the marketing department. It's important that the requirements of the department are met. So people, for example, who work in marketing should have good interpersonal and communication skills. People who work in IT should have good understanding of networks and servers and the technology that's involved, and be able to communicate with each other effectively about issues in that area. The individual criteria is concerned with the job description and the person specification. So the job description is normally written as a function within an individual department, and this is what the individual applies for. The individual sees the job description and applies to undertake that particular job. The criteria is derived from the job role and is expected to be successfully completed by the candidate. There's an element, as I said earlier, of self-selection here. The individual sees the job description and then asks him or herself whether they are qualified to undertake that task. It's pointless applying for a position if they know they can't do it. This method is often used in the selection process to identify capable employees. So it's often the case that job roles are set out, and in the selection process employees are asked to tick boxes as to what talents, skills, experiences, qualifications they've got in particular areas. And even if the specific task that they have applied for is not their forte, it's not their particular strength, it may be that the company will want to keep them on record so that if another job arises within the department, they could be contacted because the company now knows that they have certain skills and certain aptitudes. So this is the selection process, and this is the basis for a selection process. And that's all I'm going to do in this session. So thank you for watching.